Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're going to be building a picket fence around my pool back here. I have a 1.5-year-old. It's almost spring, so she's running around like crazy. So this is an important project for me to get done soon. I want to do it at a decent price though. So I'm going to be making everything myself for this fence. But I also don't want to sacrifice quality. So everything I do is going to be with treated wood so that it lasts for a long time. So let me show y'all what we're going to do and the materials I'm using, and then we'll get started. All right, so you can see I have already kind of mapped out along here how the fence is going to be. I've stringed it up, that way I'm getting everything straight. It's going to curve this way, right past that little sidewalk there, and then work its way back into the guest house. So it'll cut all that off, but we'll have a gate there, and I'm gonna put a gate at that very end over there. That way I could get the lawnmower back there. In addition to that, which I probably really won't show in this video, on that side I'll put a fence to kind of block everything in, and then I'll put a fence behind the guest house as well. So the materials I'm gonna be using, I purchased 4x4s. I mentioned these are all pressure treated. This is all pressure treated wood. I bought 4x4 by 10 posts, and I cut them in half. That way I could put them about a 1.5 to 2 feet in the ground. I also purchased 2x4s that are 8 feet long. I don't want the posts any more spread out than 8 feet, so that'll suffice. And then I bought this here. This is a 1x4 by 12. This is gonna allow me to cut them into 4 sections and make my own pickets. So you can see here, let me set this up. This is just under 3 feet tall. It's 35 inches. I cut the tip here. You can do your style however you want. I just went with a more traditional look. And this is gonna put the fence about 3 feet off the ground. So it's not super high, but it's enough to keep little kids and things like that out of the pool area. All right, so materials other than lumber that we'll need is concrete mix, plenty of it. I have some wood screws here. These are 1 5/8 inch for the picket boards. We're gonna get 3 inch for the rails as well. Other than that, that's pretty much the materials. Tools, we're gonna need a level, post digger, drill, handsaw, tape measure. We have this protective gear right here for when we're doing the concrete. Of course, we have our miter saw. We're gonna have a wheelbarrow and actually a hoe for mixing the concrete mix within it. I will probably have other tools come up along the way, and I'll let you know those as they come up. What we're gonna do first, I've already started lining up where I need to dig my holes for the posts, and we're gonna start digging. All right, so I've started digging the post holes, which, by the way, you wanna make them about 12 inches across on each side there, and we're gonna put them about 18 to 24 inches deep, since they're only gonna be about 3 feet above ground, but it's absolutely exhausting. So what I'm doing in between is I'm coming and starting the picket cutting process. So what I do for that is I take about 3 of them, I measure my 35 inches, and then I make the cut. All right, and now that I have those 3 cut, I come back with my template. I throw it on top of it. Do my marks. And then I'll stack all 3 back up. And just cut them together, and that way we're getting a pretty consistent cut, all based off of the same picket. All All right, when mixing concrete, you're gonna wanna read the instructions on the bag to see how much water goes with it. This is an 80-pound bag, so it's gonna use about just under 3 liters of water. I have that here in this jug. So what I've read you wanna do is spread it out. And then put about 2/3 of your water in the middle here. Take a hoe and then just start mixing it together. So once you get it kind of mixed, you can come back and put the rest of the water in it. And at the end, you just kind of want it a really thick, they say oatmeal style consistency. All right, so this is how you want it to look, super thick like that. You don't want it to be liquidy, otherwise it won't dry as strong. All right, now we get to put our post in. We should be able to just drop it in here. And then we'll start shoveling our concrete in. By the way, it always helps to put a little gravel underneath before you start putting this concrete in. I put some shells I already had in. At this point where there's a good chunk in there, we want to take our level and we just want to make sure it's plumb. You don't need a level this big. It's just the one that I had on hand. All right, and once it's level, what I like to do is come back and really start packing that concrete back in and put a little bit more afterwards. Once you get it back, once you get the rest in, you want to come back and make sure it is plumb again. Because oftentimes it'll move when you're putting more in. All right, and we'll pack it down one last time. I'm no professional at this by any means, so it may pay to go see another video of somebody else doing this. So if you notice, I set my outside posts first and I reran this line. That way we know exactly where our posts in between will go. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna install all of those and then move on to the next step. All right, so the posts have been in for a bit now, they're set. I started putting in the rails and I'm gonna show y'all how I've been doing that. What I do is I take a tape measure, and since my fence is gonna go about 37 inches tall total, because there's gonna be a 2-inch gap at the bottom and the pickets are 35 inches. I measure to about 29 inches, which gives me 8 inches above it. I'll show you here. It's a little guide here. So it'll go above this rail about that much. So I put it at about 29 inches and I put about 16 inches in between, which gives you enough room on the bottom there. I'm using 3.5-inch wood nails, which you can see gives you a pretty good depth in there, which lets us know that this isn't going anywhere. And one way that I've been putting this up since I've been working alone is I kind of just put this little board here, kind of screw it in to hold it in place, and it holds this end right here. So I can just come back over here, lift this, hold it in place, come back and set that one in. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish putting all of these in, and we'll start putting in pickets. One thing I wanted to show you too is that when you have an overhang like this, you can just take your circular saw, set it to depth, and cut right through it. All right, we're beginning to put the pickets up. One thing you want to do is you want to start right here with this one that's in front of this post. That way it's completely covering it. So when we put it up, we want to put it level. And to get our height right, I've built this right here. I showed you this earlier. This is 8 inches right here. So when we set it here, we can just line our next board up even with it. So let me show y'all how to do that over here. We just put that in place. We grab our picket. Get it level. We drill it in. Take it, move it on over to the next one. And do the same thing. We're just gonna do that all the way down. All right, so one thing I do when I'm putting these in is I always put this, as I mentioned before, right in front of the post, and I work my way from the outsides to the inside. That way, if there's extra room in here, you can make them slightly, the gap slightly bigger in between. And if there's less room in here, you can make the gap slightly smaller in between. You wanna catch that a little bit early, so it's not a massive change. For instance, this one here, I added a slightly bigger gap than the other ones to kind of fill the space. But once we finish, I'll show you it when we're done. It's not very noticeable at all. All right, so there it is. You can see if you look really close, there's a slight bigger gap in the middle ones here than on the outside ones, but you really can't notice it. Once the fence is done, it's not going to be noticeable at all. So just keep that in mind as you're putting these in. You may have to come back and adjust a couple of them, which is pretty simple to do. All right, for these posts here, to cut them down, it's best to do it before you put the pickets up. I put a handful up first to make sure it looked good, but I have it marked on this side, marked on this side. I've already made the cut on that side, but we're just going to run this. And there you have it. You got this. You can either sand this down, or if you can afford it, put some caps to cover it. It'll make it last a lot longer, but that's probably what I'll end up doing. But anyways, that's how you cut the post down. All right, got all the pickets up. We are on to really the last major part, which is putting in a gate. So the way I'm going to approach this is I'm going to measure the distance between this point, that point, that point, that point. So I've already kind of done that. I measured out, let's see. I've measured this out. It's 39.25 3/4. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna subtract an inch, and I'm gonna cut a 38 3/4 inch here, 38 3/4 inch here, because it matches. And I've already gone ahead and done that. Let me show you what I put together. So you can see back here, it's just a simple 38 3/4, 38 3/4. This piece here matches the distance of this piece here. Definitely want those to line up so it looks consistent. And then the way I did this, you can drill and you can put screws through the top of here. If you do that, definitely do a pilot hole first or you'll split it. I went ahead, I had some extra pocket screws, so I put them in here. You can look that up, how to do pocket screws. That way it's all hidden and pretty secure that way. So the way I have it set up now is I have Picket on that side, Picket on that side, and I'm not going to fill in the inside until I attach it. I have to go ahead and get some hinges, some gate hinges, and I'm just going to attach this side here to this side here. Those are coming in the mail, so once they get here I'll show y'all that process. All right, so I purchased this fence gate kit online. Comes with 2 hinges. They're spring loaded, so they will close automatically, and it came with this lock mechanism. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put it on the outside of my fence. That way the door will swing this way rather than towards the pool. What we're going to do first is we're going to come over here and line this up. I put it about halfway right here. That way there's a gap, and I'm just going to come over here, mark my holes. I'm going to pre-drill those. It's a 7/64 drill bit, and I'll put those through, and then we're going to hand tighten the screws on here. That way I don't tear up the wood with the drill. All right, so I have it in place now. This is my little trick, is I just kind of wedge wood underneath to hold it up, and then I take a clamp here and tighten it up. So what I want is a little gap here on this side. That's going to give me a little gap here. It's a little bigger here, but it'll be fine. And then I come back and I put my level on here just to make sure it's straight across. So what I'm going to do now is the same process over here. Mark these holes. I will drill my pilot holes, and then I will put my screws in. All right, so it's in now. We can pull this back here. Cool thing about this, these hinges, is they're spring loaded. So you can actually tighten it up. You can make it stronger. You can make it weaker by just popping this in here and twisting left or right. So we're gonna put our locking mechanism on. So typically what you would do is you'd put this, let's see, like this, and we would put this side on the front here, and it would latch into it. I'm gonna put those on the back to make it a little bit more challenging for kids to get in that are real little. So I'm gonna throw that together and I'll show you how it looks. Just a little tip when installing these, throw a clamp on here. It makes life a lot easier. All right, I threw the rest of the boards on there. You can see I have my latch behind here, so it's harder for little kids to access. We'll just pull it. Comes right open, and then it closes on its own. All right, the project is officially completed. So I have a gate here that I did, and I showed y'all the other gate. It's a total of about 93 feet. I have a section behind the guest house and a section on the other side of the shop over there that's pretty small. But yeah, 93 total feet. I have a couple of things left to do. I'm planning on staining it. That way it lasts a little bit longer, but I'm gonna wait a couple weeks for the wood to kind of dry out. That way the stain holds a little bit better. Another thing that I plan to do after the stain is put some post protectors over the top of this. They're pretty cheap, and it'll make that last a little bit longer without rotting. But overall, it's a pretty fun project. I think I saved you know, well over $1,000 by doing it myself, and I really just kind of enjoyed being outside in the weather doing it. So if you guys would do me a favor, this would really help me a lot. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000, so please do that. I would really appreciate it. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put up on the screen how much everything cost for me to build this out, all 93 square feet. And then in the links, I'm going to include some ways to purchase hardware, screws, and things like that. That way it's a little bit cheaper for you. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up. All right, so these were my total costs. You can see the lumber there. I purchased this from a lumber store. It was a little bit cheaper than a Home Depot or Lowe's type place. Definitely got it all treated. Paid a little extra so it'll last a lot longer. I also bought a good bit of concrete bags. I use about 13 60-pound concrete bags. That gave me about 40 to 50 pounds per post that I put in. And then the other thing I have listed here are wood screws. It's a little bit cheaper online as well. I'll throw some links in there to the ones that I used. They seem to work pretty good, so I'd recommend purchasing those online. Same thing with the gate hardware, a lot cheaper online. But at the end, the total price was $616.33. It was, which includes tax, and I definitely think I saved probably, $1,000, $1,500, something like that, just doing this myself. So, recommend doing this project and saving a lot of money. So do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and thank you all so much for watching.